Hello! Hi there, it's me, it's Dave, or the Jaded Rabbit. God bless you. Thank you for finding some time in your busy day to join me for a different kind of video. We are going to be taking a look at some of the real life lore that is involved with Mortal Kombat. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at some Mortal Kombat 11 stuff. One of the things that I really enjoyed about Mortal Kombat 11, I guess, it definitely kept me playing, was the gear customization system. Highly customizable. Are all of the choices meaningful? That's another question for another video. But I am very much inspired by all of these different names that they have created for gear pieces, for skins. There are lots of references within these names to actual things that have happened IRL, in the real world. So we're going to be taking a look at several inspirations from history and different mythologies that have inspired these rewards, these artifacts that you can collect within Mortal Kombat 11, which I think is super cool. Just as a little background, I am sort of a history nerd. In high school, I was in higher level history. Instead of AP, we had something here called IB, and instead of like advanced history, I was taking HL, higher level history. And so yes, I was very fascinated by things in the world. Some of the things that you see here in Mortal Kombat 11, you may be completely ignorant of if you don't really enjoy history or mythology, but I think this is all very interesting stuff to me. Hopefully you find it interesting as well. So the characters we're going to be taking a look at are Jax, Cetrion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, and of course one of my favorite characters. We'll keep that as a surprise for the very end. But yes, I think the first place that I would really like to start here is with the Jax Briggs. He has these bionic arms called Mansa Musa's Moneymakers. This is a reference to something that happened in medieval Africa. I am very fascinated by African history. There is a wonderful 20 or 30 part series from the UN that does a complete history of the continent of Africa from pre-civilization to modern era. But yeah, Mansa Musa was a king of the Kingdom of Mali, and it was interesting that he's listed here for Jax. They're trying to make a connection between this old-time ruler of Africa, a specific small region of Africa, and Jax. Also, Mansa Musa, you might have heard of him because he is colloquially known as the most richest person in history. There are some articles that go around saying that, like BuzzFeed, Pop News. Don't trust that. That's not entirely true. But Mansa Musa was well known for his wealth, and he was a very rich guy. So yeah, very interesting. Let's take some pictures. So yes, I have some research here. Oh no, where did it go? Let's see if I can get it back. Reopen. Oh, there we go. Oops. Oh no, where did my picture go? Let's get our picture back. Ah ha 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 ha. Yay, it's picture time. So yes, we're going to be taking a travels through history here. And what you're seeing here is an artist's representation of Timbuktu. You might have heard of Timbuktu. Timbuktu was well known for its libraries and being a place of scholarly learning. It was one of the better libraries throughout the history of the world, until the kingdom fell into disrepair. But during the height of the kingdom of Mali, it took over a large portion of Western Africa along the Niger River. Here you can see Timbuktu. When I was young, I always wonder, like, where's Timbuktu? Because there's like that part in Spice Up Your Life that goes like, okay, how does it go? Yellow man in Timbuktu, colorful both me and you. Do you remember that? It's Spice Up Your Life. I was like, yellow man in Timbuktu. So I wanted to learn about this from a young age. So this is why that particular gear piece for Jax kind of speaks to me, because I'm like, oh, I learned about this. So this is the Mali Empire. This is Timbuktu. Very cool. Mansa Musa was the ruler of Timbuktu for a period in the 14th century. This is a medieval map of the world which featured Mansa Musa with like a gold crown and a gold coin, because like I said before, he's well known for being one of the richest people throughout history. He had lots of gold. So I did a little a little how do you call it, research, I suppose, just so that we can have have this. So I knew that he was rich from salt, but they're saying here his riches also came from having gold deposits in the Mali kingdom, elephant ivory. I think one thing that this National Geographic is forgetting is that there was slave trade going on. Mansa Musa is actually like a Muslim name, because Musa is the way to refer to Moses in Islamic texts. So yes, you really have Mansa Musa. Mansa also being like the name for a ruler or a king in the Mali language, but Musa is more so of Arabic Islamic descent. But yeah, very interesting, because basically the Arabs, they left the Arabic Peninsula and crossed into North Africa around the 10th 11th century. They had already had sultanates put up at that point. The Mamluk Sultanate, the Marinid Sultanate. These sultanates would take slaves in their form of trade. So a huge wealth of value came from the slave trade by people converting to Islam and then selling out their neighbors who are not Islamic. Very interesting. So yes, the slave trade was also a thing of this. When Mansa Musa went on Hajj to Mecca, his journey through Egypt caused quite a stir. The kingdom of Mali was relatively unknown outside of West Africa until this event. Arab writers from the time said that he traveled with an entourage of tens of thousands of people and dozens of camel, each carrying 136 kilograms of gold. That's that's a lot of money, right? This is all anecdotal, right? This is we don't have the proof. Where are the pictures? But based on Arab scholars at the time, this is the account, and this was a very famous crossing when he went on his pilgrimage to Mecca. So yeah, he was giving away gold to the Sultan of Egypt, the Mamluk Sultanate at the time, but he was also giving it away to like the poor people too. Like that's where the story of generosity comes from for Mansa Musa. So he's like a good guy. So stories of fabulous wealth even reached Europe. That's how we ended up with like even European map makers, including Mansa Musa on their maps. So he is like really quite famous. So it's interesting that they have like put this into the game. I think it's quite fascinating. So we have here this like yellow kind of looking Mansa Musa moneymakers. Oh, when you shake your moneymakers, are you thinking about shaking your arms? what? What? Okay, anyways, let's see what you guys are saying. Thank you for joining. YUFAX, John Feltner, Hunter. Oh, very cool. I'm glad. Hunter, Mortal Kombat's characters in real life. I die. No big surprise. Oh no. So apparently Havoc was a corrupt priest. A very interesting, Feather. Enzo, thank you, brother. Martin, fair play, Enzo. I don't. LOL, Martin. No, this is not pre-recorded. LOL. This is live. Hence the live stream. LOL. Okay, so yes, I find that amusing when people think that I'm working off a script or that I'm pre-recorded, because no, this is just me. LOL. So yes, I really like the inclusion here of Mansa Musa's moneymakers here, but then it's like, is Jax like Muslim like Mansa Musa? I think that's the question that we should make. I mean, there is that like story ending for Jax where it's all very Wakanda inspired, and I think when they were creating these gear pieces, they perhaps wanted that same spirit to be with the gear pieces, so they looked for a very powerful, well-known ruler of Africa, known for his wealth, to just be one of these gear pieces, which I think is like really super cool. But so I was then thinking, like, is he like MLK or Malcolm X? Which one is he? LOL. MLK was Christian. He had a dream for the children to unite. But Malcolm X was Muslim like Mansa Musa. And then I'm thinking, let me ask my mom about Malcolm X. And so she gave me this story that I had not heard of. I mean, I think it's always a great idea to ask your elders what's going on in the world, because usually their perspective is quite different and you might learn something. So I asked my mom about Malcolm X, and instead she told me this story about this guy named Michael X, who was inspired by Malcolm to yikes. Yikes. I'll just read it. Mostly locals from Trinidad, including the self-styled Black Power leader Michael X, who had himself modeled on the militant black civil rights activist Malcolm X. OMG, scroll down. They had enlarged it to a depth of 4 feet when one of the diggers turned to Gail and asked, "What do you think this is for?" She shrugged. "This is a fresh hole for decomposed bodies," said the man, before suddenly pushing her into it. 2 other companions began to lash at her with a cutlass. The swinging blade caught her hands and arms as she fought, wounding her badly in the chest and throat. Gail realized that they were trying to bury her alive. She was still breathing as mounds of dry earth was piled onto her body. OMG. I mean, like, thanks, Mom. Mom taught me something. I'm really excited about that. So I don't think that like Mansa Musa or Jax are very similar to Malcolm X or Michael X. OMG. Jax is a force of good. Yay. All right, so this is like our first little bit about Jax. Let's move on to Cetrion. Cetrion has another gear piece that is very much historically inspired, with Wu Zetian. Once again here, this is a reference to a historical figure from China, notably the first empress of China. the first and only empress of China. Wu Zetian is a very famous historical figure, represented in the form of these tentacles, scaly tentacles. It's very interesting, almost snake-like in appearance. Yes, I think you could totally see that. But very, very interesting. Are you familiar with this? So, Mansa Musa was from the 14th century. Wu Zetian, what you're looking at right now, is from the 7th, early 8th century. So Wu Zetian was a poor concubine. She was a poor little girl. She found favor with the emperor of the Tang dynasty sometime in the mid 600s. Main 600s? Yeah, that's a long time ago. So sometime in the mid 600s, this poor girl was favored upon by the emperor of the Tang dynasty and made into a concubine. She quickly rose the ranks of the concubine hierarchy. And her husband eventually died. So she was Empress of China at the top of the concubines at the time of his death. She then goes on to marry his son, the next in line for the throne. So she becomes Empress of China again as the son's wife. So this lady is kind of twisted. She slept with the father, then she slept with the son, just so that she could rise to power in China. Very interesting. She is also really well known for being kind of cruel in the history of China for her actions against rivals, killing family members in order for her to stay in power. She was also she was the only female empress of China. Very interesting. She's also a very popular figure in Chinese drama, if you enjoy that kind of thing. They will make references to Wu Zetian. Wu Zetian is a very, it's in the pop culture of China. People are familiar. So, like Mansa Musa, well, there are claims that she was the richest woman ever. She would have had 16 trillion today. One of the wonderful things about China during that time was its silk, which was highly valued, even more so than gold. So she really boosted trade in China using the Silk Road, getting more and more wealth inside of China because she decided to do this trade. That's also very true for going back to Mansa Musa. One of the reasons why he was so wealthy was because he really opened up the kingdom to trade with the Arabs, with other people in Africa. That allowed him to accrue a lot of wealth. Same goes for Wu Zetian. But as you can see, this is just like a depiction of what she looks like from a recent movie. She's so pretty. She was probably very beautiful, very deceiving, very cunning. This depiction that you're seeing here is from the 18th century. So this was made a long time after her death. Unfortunately, there are no really good depictions of what she looked like when she was alive. Wu Zetian, so this is the Wikipedia. Under her 40-year rule, China grew larger, becoming one of the greater powers of the world. Yes, I would say that this is what she would be most well known for, were it not for her also being kind of icky. She slept with the father and then married his 9th son and successor, Emperor Gaozang. So yes, and then apparently the son suffered a stroke and he couldn't perform his duties, and she essentially became the true
Of her
ruler.
enemies.
Oh, and I do have like a little clippy here from a documentary because Wu Zetian is sort of known for being cruel, and there is some validity to that. There are more modern articles about her that will say that she's not as cruel. But I mean, let's take a look at this.
It has also emerged that some of the tales of her callousness were not just propaganda. Art historian Dr. Jenny Liu has discovered new texts in the tomb of Wu's great-granddaughter, Princess Yongtai, that suggest even blood knew no mercy.
I've studied other princess epitaphs as well, and this is a passage here which I've never seen.
I really like this because it's so cool. I think that like having primary sources whenever looking at history is important, and having this available from all the way back in the 7th century, super cool. This is why I'm a history nerd. I'm so sorry, but I find this stuff very fascinating. So this is a tomb of her granddaughter or great granddaughter, and it will describe the reason of why she died. So we have the historian here to explain.
You have the character for anger, okay, and anger at the two boys and their secret medicine.
So, okay, secret medicine. One thing to know about Wu Zetian and this whole time of China is that they really believed in poisons, fancy elixirs that would either heal miraculously or kill you. So, yeah, the use of poison in the court of Wu Zetian was a thing.
So this passage tells you what happened to Princess Yongtai. These are characters that are usually used for the miscarriage or the loss of a child. And it is the Zhang brothers' secret medicine or poison that made her miscarriage, leading to her death. This refers to Wu Zetian because it's very possible that she was the instigator of the poison. The Zhang brothers were very close to her, and they did her bidding. And she was known to have pitted people against each other in court.
All right, so yes, so it seems that she, with conspirators, wanted to kill her granddaughter with child. And this is because she was with child from very powerful families that could have threatened her ability to rule China. So she was really ruthless in putting down potential threats to the throne. But I mean, you know, I guess you could argue that that same kind of like, what about the War of Roses in England, where families were essentially killing each other so that one other family could be the king, right? So it's like, you know, like it's always a battle between brothers. I think that's true. Also, I was watching something about the Ottoman Empire. It broke up because the dude who died, he left it to his 5 sons, and then they all started fighting. Civil War time. Very interesting. Yeah. So I think like Wu Zetian should be praised for definitely helping China grow bigger, opening it up to trade way back when. But I think like also, I guess through the lens of modern values, it's hard to see some of these things as just not like icky. She slept with the father and the son. It's like an episode of Jerry Springer or Maury. Ew. So, yeah, very interesting. This is the gear piece that we have here for Cetrion. Very interesting. Yes, let's see what you guys are saying. Hopefully you're enjoying this. J4, Game of Thrones treachery. I totally agree. Shang is part of the 24 characters by data mines. Interesting. Oh boy, I want to hug Reptile now. Very nice. This MK lore or human history? It's both. It's the inspiration for these gear pieces. I think it's fascinating. If you don't like it, well, you can leave a dislike and bye-bye. LOL. No one's forcing you to watch. It's completely free to do so. Thank you for being here. LOL. Okay, so yes, moving on to the next one. I think, like, moving from the realms of history, now we're approaching, like, mythologies, things of, like, human creation and various myths involved. So here you've got Penglai Island Arsenal, now for Sub-Zero. I mean, these are just reskins of things that you can obtain elsewhere in the game. But I think it's very interesting that there is this reference to Penglai Island. Are you familiar with this? So Penglai Island, it kind of looks like Penguin Island to those who are not in the know. But Penglai Island is actually a reference to Chinese mythology. So we're looking at somewhere around the Three Kingdoms time of China, like 3rd century AD, like 2,000 years ago. Lots of years ago. Very interesting. So in basic Chinese mythology is the idea of separation of realms, which actually gives a lot of inspiration for Netherrealm and the different realms that you can explore in, let's say, MK Deception, Chaos Realm, Nether Realm, Order Realm. In Chinese mythology, there's like Heaven Realm, Immortal Realm, Demon Realm, Earth Realm, Ghost Realm. There's a whole bunch of realms in this sort of fantasy interpretation of Chinese mythology. Very interesting. So what you're looking at is a depiction in the 18th century of Penglai Island. So Penglai Island is a place where immortals congregate. Very interesting. So it appears that it's a combination of deities and humans who have attained immortality, either by elixir of life or cultivation of spirit. This is a thing in Chinese mythology. Humans could achieve immortality by increasing their cultivation of their powers, their souls. And you could do this through meditation, you could do this through taking potions. Yes, there's a lot of use of elixir and like fancy drinks in Chinese mythology. Very interesting. So Penglai Island is one of 3 islands where there would be immortals. So I really love this like picture because it's not just a picture, it's a painting. It's very detailed. I absolutely love it. This is the inspiration for that belt. Way prettier than the belt. Let's be honest. But I think it's also interesting to see like the references to Chinese mythology with like Sub-Zero or traditionally Chinese characters. Because yeah, it adds more, I think, believability to the MK lore in general if it's grounded in something real. For instance, like the White Lotus Society. That was a real thing. So it's interesting to see it in Mortal Kombat as well. So this is saying here that folklore and legends about Penglai stretch to China's earliest history. Oh yeah, I think one thing that we did not address is that it's not actually an island. It's a mountain. So Penglai and these other islands, they were considered to be or other mountains, they were considered to be islands because they were so high up above the earthly realm that they were islands unto themselves. But the way that you could access this island as a human is to like climb up a mountain. Very interesting. So yeah, stretch back to China's earliest history. So the stories claim was a magical mountainous island. You see that? It's a mountain island where many immortal deities and beings lived. Like the supernatural deities that lived on it, the island of Penglai itself was said to have had its own magical properties. It frequently moved about, and out of its soil grew herbs that could be turned into the elixir of immortality. Incredibly important to the Qin and Han dynasties. Qin and Han dynasties, just for reference, happened after the Tang dynasty of Wu Zetian. So just framing things within historical timelines, I think that's important. So yeah, I find it very fascinating that there is this reference to Penglai Island in Chinese mythology. I wish there was more, let's be honest, because I think there's a lot more interesting things besides this like kind of like holy island that you can reach immortality upon. I like the ghost realm. I like the demon realm. Whenever I watch Chinese drama, there's usually some sexy demon guy, demon king. They're very sexy in the demon realm. So yeah, I would love to see that. Anyways, so yeah, I do play Chinese RPGs. And this is like a common trope within them. It's always referencing this creation myth of China, traditional Chinese beliefs. Mount Penglai in Legend of Sword and Fairy, which is a franchise that has been around for nearly 30 years, is located on an island in the East Sea and has been considered one of the grotto heavens. Yeah, there's like some sort of like space in between Earth and heaven that you can access upon these islands. The cultivation sect established there were very modest and low-key when dealing with the secular world, and were not as known as the other sects. Nevertheless, they remained a key member of the League of Saints during the Tang Dynasty. So yeah, Penglai Island isn't even really visited in the games that I play. They just make reference to it, which I found very fascinating, because it's like, it's Sub-Zero's belt. LOL. Sub-Zero's belt. Okay, so wow. Very interesting. I find all of this like real life lore stuff very fascinating. I mean, like, the belt is ugly. Can we just be honest? But I think, like, the history and the inspiration that goes into it is way more fascinating than this. Okay, alright, let's see what you guys are saying. Feather, I remember Smosh making a joke about Penn Island. Okay. Camera, Titan, and speaker. Oh, Titan versus Scorpion. Sub-Zero. Interesting, Hunter. Very interesting. Okay, thanks, Dave. Now I'm thinking about the possibility of Rain forcing Delia to marry him. Oh no. I'm sorry. The history is just very, very fascinating. Havoc's bio is out now. Very cool, Feather. Martin, dude, you a man. Thanks. So are you. All right. So, moving on to the next one. We've got Raiden. I think there's a lot of very historical references, mythological references within the game. I'm only choosing two because these ones were just more fascinating to me. But I think like this hat is super interesting. So this is a Combat League hat. Actually, in fact, all of the gear pieces that we've touched on are Combat League gear pieces. But yes, Indra. Very fascinating. If you're familiar with Hindu mythology, Indra is in the pantheon of gods and is responsible for lightning. Very cool. It looks beautiful. I will say, this hat is a wonderful reskin. Gives you a nice glowy effect with whatever accent color is going on with your particular costume. So yeah, really love this hat. But I love the reference to Indra. Like for maybe NetherRealm, they just they just like Googled what is the god of thunder in Hinduism, and they decided, oh, let's just name the hat that. But for me, like I think it's so interesting because there is like rich story about Indra. One of the thing about all of the Hindu gods is that they can be good or bad, and they have like a very fancy story and history that goes on with them. So what you're looking at is a picture of Indra, or a depiction of him, with the lightning bolt. He is known for throwing lightning bolts. What you're seeing here is a Vajra, which is like a club with spikes, or sometimes it's represented with like a round top, but it's usually meant to like kill. It's a weapon. It does damage. So yeah, I love this sexy picture of Indra, looking so cool. He also rides a white elephant. You can see him in battle. This is his Vajra in action. I personally like the one with all of the spikes because you can stab rather than just club. This guy looks like the devil or something, and he has like a really big one, a really big club. So if we're talking about like things like Hindu mythology, this is going to 3rd century BC. 3rd century BC. Very, very cool. But I think like here we have a little explanation of what the Vajra is. It's a thunderbolt. It's a weapon. It's a club with a round top, sharp points, stabby. Yeah, I think that's fascinating. I wish we could have that. But Indra was known in mythology for having 1,000 vaginas all over his body. I'm not sure if NetherRealm knew of this, but there is a story in Hinduism of Indra getting 1,000 vaginas. You can see it represented here with eyes. The vaginas later became eyes, but this is the story of how it happens. So Indra, king of gods, he was the oldest of the devas, so he's the king of gods. But he went too far in his pursuits that landed him in trouble often. One such story is his obsession with Ahalya, wife of sage Gautam. Ahalya was a gorgeous woman, such that Brahma created her as a true personification of a beauty. Indra never stopped stalking her, and his obsession for her saw no end. So he was like really attracted. He was horny for this other dude's wife. He really wanted this other dude's wife. So he takes on the voice of a rooster, making the sage think that it's morning, so he leaves early for the day. Meanwhile, Indra transforms into him, makes love to the sage's wife. And during the act, she realizes it's not him, but she cannot do anything about it. Essentially, she gets raped. And this is a story of rape. So he raped this dude's wife. Knowing that something is wrong, the sage returns, and then he curses Indra for the obsession with his wife. So he gave him 1,000 female marks. You can interpret that to be 1,000 vaginas or 1,000 vulvas, but he was covered with 1,000 female genitals. This is Indra, very interesting. So, eventually it gets transformed into eyes when other people take pity upon Indra and they want him to do something, but he can't do anything because he's essentially a big pussy. So they get him fixed up. They cover him then with eyes. So yeah, typically you'll see depictions of Indra with this artwork, with the 1,000 eyes, as opposed to the 1,000 hoo-has. Very curious. Do you like history? Do you like real life lore? I think it's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, so wow, very interesting. Yeah, I knew about all of this stuff before. But I needed the pictures to really illustrate to you what's going on, and that I'm not making all of this up. But yeah, very, very cool. Raiden. That's Raiden. Now we come to maybe my favorites. Maybe. Let's see what you guys are saying. 1,000 meows. Yeah, his footwear is wild. OMG. Yeah, I guess that picture of Indra's shoes. He's got on sneakers. Why does he have sneakers? They were very advanced back then. Oh no, that looks really pretty. Okay, I thought that they were sneakers. No, that looks really pretty. Wow. Okay. Feather. Mortal Kombat is based from a multitude of different things. Historical lore is one of them. Totally agree, Feather. I think we should have an appreciation for this stuff. I think it's fabulous. Hunter. Doomslayer is confirmed. LOL. I don't believe that leak, Hunter. While I'm aware fans don't like Cetrion, we can all agree Argus is the worst of the gods. That one guy, Cetrion can't even think for herself. I'm gonna have to agree with that one guy. Cetrion can't think for herself. Why did she sacrifice herself for Kronika? I mean, it's one thing like having like Wu Zetian killing her second son, I believe, so that she could secure her status as empress. But Kronika just like Cetrion does it willingly, which is stupid. Very stupid. Okay, so from the story of 1,000 vaginas, do we come to a real life story? So we're leaving the world of mythology and we're traveling 360 million years ago. So one of the gear pieces for Devora, it's actually a huge crime. I wish I had it. I don't have it. It's called Meganura Sphinx, but it's one of those Combat League rewards at God tier. I don't have it. Unfortunately, it doesn't even allow you to preview the item. However, thankfully, I do have I have done research on this before. So let's go to Mega Neuron Sphinx. It's a reskin. I do like to identify what's a reskin in the game or not. But Mega Neuron Sphinx, do you know what that is? Curious? So yes, like I alluded to before, it's from 360 million years ago. Meganura is a specific type of dragonfly that existed in a world before dinosaurs. Dinosaurs appeared, what, 180 million years ago? This was like 300 million years ago. So this was in the Carboniferous period where there was just lots of trees. So many trees that it eventually contributed to the bulk of our fossil fuel resources that we use currently. So it's from that era that this dragonfly used to exist. And they found a fossil of this thing. I believe it was France, 1800s. Or maybe 1900s? Yeah, it's just basically a big-ass dragonfly. You don't really get a sense of scale here, but this thing is huge. This is like meters across. So this is another depiction of what that particular fossil could have looked like. And that's where it gets its name, Meganura, which is meaning big and veiny. Um, that's what some guys call their junk. Big and veiny. So, yeah, they named a whole entire genus of dragonflies after this. Very beautiful. Yeah, I think that this would be an absolutely like terrifying thing to have in the real world. It's basically the abdomen of a toddler and 2 times as wide. 3 times as wide? It's huge. It's huge. So I think it's very fascinating. I have a little clippy here. This is just some like CGI animation of what it looked like. It's basically a flying log. I would have loved it if it meant for Devora that she had really huge wings. Unfortunately, the biggest wings in the game, they are not they are not so innovatively named as Meganuran Sphinx. But it's huge. Do you see this thing? It's huge. So I find this very fascinating that we have this like history represented within the game. Now, going back to Devora here, her biggest wings are Devora tier. I mean, these are pretty big, right? But imagine if they were even bigger and they were called Meganuran Sphinx, because it's just a reskin of something that's actually really tiny, dagger wings. If I had the appropriate reskin, it would be that. But that doesn't look like dragonfly wings. That doesn't look like the fossil. So it bothers me that the thing in the game doesn't look like what it's supposed to. Like, that's dagger wings, right? That's Meganuran Sphinx. Do you see the difference? Lazy. So it makes me think that like some of these gear pieces or whatever they're naming in their game, they don't put the thought into it, because they would have at least tried to make it look like the thing that they're naming it after. But yeah, fashion faux pas aside, I am very much fascinated with the fact that they had a fossil appear in the game. So the other interesting thing to really know about the Carboniferous era period, what's the proper geological phrase? Not sure. But during this time, there like I said, there was no dinosaurs, but because there were so many trees, so many forests, it was generating so much oxygen in the world that these buggies, they grew to huge sizes, like millipedes that would be like 3 meters long. Huge if you don't like bugs. Like, this is what was crawling around the world at that time. And it's because of the high oxygen content. Normally these guys don't have like lungs. They just breathe through something called spiracles, which would allow for the diffusion of oxygen within them, which works for small creatures, because when you're smaller, the oxygen doesn't have to diffuse against much. But when they become so big, some of these bugs that were around that time, they had lungs, which is gross, because it's like a human animal bug hybrid, just like Devora. Just like Devora. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I'm absolutely fascinated by all of this like historical references, because there's just so much beautiful stuff in history. I think like from our exploration in history today, like, we had Mansa Musa, one of the richest dudes in history. Then we had Wu Zetian, who is one of the richest chicks in history. Then we had Penglai Island, Chinese mythology. Then we had, like, Big Bug. But I definitely think the story that fascinates me the most is the story of Indra having 1,000 vaginas. It's very fascinating. Also really like this artwork. This artwork's really good. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you're having fun. Fair enough. Cetrion has no will of herself when she's a goddess of life and virtue. Interesting. Fun fact, Hotaru in Japanese means dragonfly. Bo Rai Cho means drunk in Spanish, and the same goes for Mavado, which is losing Malvado, that means evil guy. Oh, okay. Fascinating, Feather. Brian, how are you doing today? Enjoy your day. Thank you, Brian. I hope you're having a great day too, brother. But yeah, I am like super fascinated by all of this historical reference. Hopefully you were too. If you would like to see more about the history that has gone into the creation of these gear pieces, of these skins, yeah, there's I see like great potential. I'm very fascinated by a lot of stuff. Like specifically like Cabal. I love Cabal's gear pieces because these are all chemicals. Yeah, I did pharmaceutical chemistry as my degree at university. So yeah, I'm very fascinated by all of this stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of natural science and history that there are references to here with these different things, but yeah, I find it very interesting. Hopefully you did too. Please, if you enjoyed this, consider joining the Jaded Bunny fam. You get access to my secret videos, family only PvP events, infinite time crystal glitch. Yes, if you want all of the secrets, please do consider joining. Much love to my newest bunny in the fam, James Shea, Kevin Dong, Kalila Crenshaw. OMG. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. It means the world that you're part of the fam. Really cool. Also, much love to everyone else. John Feltner, Costas, Charlie Ravens, John Lee, John Clark, Danny Slaw, Energizer, Pro Gamer, J4, Among Us Gamer, Kenneth, Cara D, Kokoma Joe, A.G. Miller, Coffee Gamer, Lucy Little Thunder, Boots Alexander, Jonah, Eric, Glowy, Chaka Corn, Airy, Michael K, Darkside, Trokar, Ghoul, Mark Danny, O Gamer, Michael G, Swishbish, Ilkid, Snoopy Blind FGC, Albus Christus Mortis, Yuri, Erdem, Calum, JJ, Dr. Eggman, Alina, Acenonics 85, Alan, Siderem, Ragnar, Rian Chaos, and Queen. Melina, yes, thank you, my brothers and sisters. Means the world. Really would not be alive were it not for you, my friends. Okay, so let's see what you guys are saying. Feather, that's a lot of chalupas. Interesting. Feather, will you watch the 2 Tekken reveals? Maybe? Perhaps at some point. I've been pretty busy. And yeah, I was really like impassioned to make this video. Apparently well enough that some people thought that it was pre-recorded at the beginning. But yeah, no, I'm very fascinated by history. Hopefully you are too. I think there's a lot of like real world inspiration, but if people want some made up story about Outworld, I mean, like, I don't know how much stock to put in the real lore of Mortal Kombat, or at least what they purport as real, because everything is completely different in MK1. So different. I've always had that problem with, like, DC. I never enjoyed DC because they would just reboot the franchise constantly. Like, there's no continuity. Oh boy. Okay. Jade has been strangely being teased by Ed and the actress, but it might be nothing. I think it's probably nothing, Feather. I have low expectations for anything. Will be pleasantly surprised if it actually happens. But yes, thank you, my friends, for joining along. If you're here at this point of the video, God bless you. That means you've made it to the end. A like, a comment, a subscribe really goes a long way. Takes a second to do, completely free. But yes, I'm praying that you are not being cursed the same way that Indra was. But yes, I'm praying. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. Bye, my friends. Take care. Peace. Love you guys.